Hello and welcome. My name is Eric Kalita.
Arun Nagarajan here.
And this is Connecting AppScript and Twilio. And today is a very exciting special Google Developer Live episode where we're going to be breaking the boundaries of Google AppScript, getting beyond the web page and into the world of the phone.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Good morning to the folks that are watching in from West Coast, quite early there, or the East Coast. And what we're going to do today is talk about connecting AppScript applications to voice and SMS messaging. So Twilio is a cloud communication platform that allows you to take your applications and connect it to a phone call, send and receive SMS messages, and we're going to show a few examples of that. And hopefully everything we've done is using their standard documented API, and you'll be able to take a lot of these away and build your own exciting voice and SMS applications.
So just to clarify, Twilio, that's not a Google product, is it?
No, so it's a third-party product, and we're just demonstrating yet other applications that we can connect in using our standard mechanisms, using documented APIs from other third-party companies as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. AppScript, you know, the name implies that it's all about Google Apps, but really
Correct.
You can integrate with a whole bunch of external systems. You did Salesforce just the other week.
That's right. So here's yet another one, and hopefully it'll get you excited and you can see some of the possibilities that we offer.
Sounds great. Let's get rolling.
All right. So the first thing that I'll start with is we'll talk about how do we process incoming SMS, right? So SMS, one of the benefits of SMS is that it's such a global mechanism.
That's true.
All you need is a feature phone. It's dirt cheap. It's something that everybody has access to. They don't have to have a specific type of smartphone. They may not even need to have a data plan. So that's one of the nice things about SMS, and that's something that Twilio has enabled worldwide. And what we're going to show is a very simple example of the user sends an SMS, the server gets it and does something interesting with it and responds back. Okay, and hopefully that'll set the stage for how do you go about building a simple SMS application.
Yeah, that sounds like a great base case. I actually just saw a presentation recently about how in developing countries, you know, SMS is the backbone of almost all communication.
That's right. That's right.
So this is really kind of an important thing, and even in the U.S., sometimes it's just easier to send a text.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is go to script.google.com to get started, and I'm going to write a very simple application. I'm going to log in as myself. Probably should have done this. Let's see quickly. All right, good. So I'm going to start a blank project. So before I do the project here, what I should have pointed out is I've already logged into my Twilio account. So I have already had set up a Twilio account. It's pretty easy to get started. They have a trial period as well. So if you want to experiment with the few basic messages, you can do that very, very cheaply. All right. So what they have is basically the ability that you go into their dashboard, and if you go to their numbers, so essentially you purchase numbers as part of the plan, and I have a very simple plan that a number that I've purchased. It's a regular 10-digit number. You can actually get short codes for a little bit more money as well. And what you can do here is essentially you can attach a callback URL for each number. So I've already done this, and I'll kind of come back, and that's sort of the background setup that I had to do. And they have a couple of demo URLs that they start you off with, and then you can obviously swap that with your own URL.
And just to be clear, I think you mentioned it briefly there is some basic cost involved in getting this running, right?
That's right, yeah. So I think, I forget the exact specifics. I think it's in the order of a few cents a message, and maybe even 1 cent for SMS message, and maybe 10 cents for a phone call,
okay.
Something along those lines. And then for those premium numbers, you end up paying, I think, a few bucks a month.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely can get started quickly.
Absolutely.
A lot of money being spent.
Absolutely. And then they have really good documentation as well. So I'll show you that here's sort of their documentation for what happens for an incoming SMS. So an incoming SMS, you can do a get or a post, and here are the parameters that come in, the from, to, body, and they do what you'd expect. And then if available, it'll actually do a whole bunch of other geocoding as well, and take the phone number and convert it to city, state, and country in some cases. Okay, let's go back. And what I'll do is I'll use our language app to very quickly translate an example. So I'll say var incoming equal to parameter dot body. I think it's lowercase p, if I remember right. All right, cool. So I have that. So that just is the incoming SMS body. I'm going to ignore the phone number and other details about the person. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see this. And what I'll do is I'll say var translated equal to language app dot translate, and translate incoming, which is in English, to Spanish. Okay, and then I'm going to respond back. And one of the things I'm sure you've seen in other examples, and our documentation talks about this quite a bit as well, is content service. So in the doGet method, you can return a UI app instance, HTML service, and the third option, which we're going to be using quite a bit, is content service. So content service is what you can do to return JSON, XML, RSS, any sort of text-based format that another computer or another system needs to interact with.
That's right.
So in this case, we'll just return simple text, and we'll say return content service dot create text output, and I'll return translated, and if I can spell it right, and then I'll just set the MIME type manually, content service dot MIME type dot text. So you can see those are the MIME types that we support. All right, and that's it. So I'll save this as translate text. Give it a simple name. Got to have a version saved. Okay, and then I'm going to publish this as a web app.
So he was kind of going through this fast, but if you go to our documentation, it'll show you step by step how you can do this on your own project.
Yep, absolutely. I apologize if I'm skipping through it quite quickly, but what I've basically done is saved a version, which then allows me to deploy it as a web app. So one thing that you have to make sure that you're deploying it so that anyone has access. You don't have to publicize the URL, but this is something that you have to do so that this other service can call it. I'm going to deploy it, and that's it. So that's a live AppScript content service app that's out on the internet now. I'm going to copy this URL, go back to my Twilio dashboard, and paste it in. So clear this and paste in my new example, and hit save. And that's it. So now I have a live SMS application, and hopefully we'll get to testing. So here's the code. I'm going to go to my phone. So this is quite exciting. We have a live phone hooked up. Hopefully this will all work. And I'm going to go in, and the number I have it written out here. So I'll just type in 224. That's the text message number that I've purchased. 3902. I'm going to say hello in English. And this should, you can see that it's going through. That should now call into our AppScript server. And if the demo gods are with us, you should get a text message back. Let's see. Yep, drum roll, please. Maybe not so lucky. Let's see what's going on here. I'll go to the logs. Did I mess something up? You can see all the different text messages that are coming in. So from to the messages. Did I mess up the number? Oh, I texted some wrong person. That's exciting.
At least the message content was, it's nice.
It's appropriate. That's right. 677-3902. I'll just say hello, save myself a little bit of typing. So that should now hopefully show up in the logs here. So it received it, and it should have sent it. And incoming, received. And what's going on here? Let's see. 390. Let's see here. Go back to my service, publish, deploy as web app. Hopefully I copied that correctly. Missing something here?
So go back to your publish settings.
Yes. Let's see.
Did you have a
deploy as web app? Anyone?
Yeah. So you need to do as you. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can deploy a web app in AppScript. Whether the script runs as the user account that's actually accessing it, or whether it runs as the developer. Now, since Twilio, it doesn't have a Google account. They're not actually a Gmail user. It couldn't actually run as them. So it was asking them for like a login screen, and it couldn't do it. So now that it runs as Arun, you can hear that ding means.
All right. Let's say good morning. And hopefully that'll work. And you saw the mistakes that I was warning you about. So you have to just make sure that the authorization settings are set up correctly. And I'm not a very good Spanish speaker, but hopefully you can see that responding in Spanish. So, so what I had done, Eric pointed out, was basically under the deploy, ensure that you're running it as yourself, and then anyone, even anonymous, has access to this. So that'll set up a very basic flow of getting a message and then responding back to it.
I think it's incredible that in basically 3 lines, you've been able to turn your phone into any sort of service that you want.
That's right. And you can wire up, and obviously you just saw a very simple app script service here, the language app that we use. But then you have finance, you have all the other ones that you can authenticate as yourself and be able to access your documents, access your spreadsheets, access email and calendar and so on. You have the whole suite of tools available for you. So that's a very simple example of how this all works, and hopefully that made sense. Yeah. And hopefully you saw the few ways you can screw that up as well. So I'll close this, and we'll actually go to a fun example. So the second example that we're going to do is talk about how we will take an SMS feed from a user and convert that into a sort of a polling mechanism. So I'm sure you've seen this on various shows like American Idol, and you just text in your vote, and they do that because they want it to be very quick and not have people go search for an app and install it, which for a simple 1 or 2 character input, that's ideal. Text messages are ideal. So what I have for this is I kind of already started a very simple spreadsheet. Hopefully you can see my screen. So here you can just see that I've started a very simple spreadsheet where I just have one row that just shows the header, and I've already written out a very simple script. And in this case, it's a very similar format as the other example you saw, except in this case, it takes the body and then does some basic processing on it. And for lack of creativity, the very simple poll here is who your favorite superhero is. And who's your favorite superhero? In my case, I've had 3 options and another option, and it's going to do a very basic sanity checking of it's going to actually lowercase it, and then if it doesn't match any of these 3 options, it's going to assume you want other. And then it's going to take that data and append it, and then I'm going to return nothing so that there's no cost associated with replying back to this message. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is publish this as a web app. Okay? Have this version. Update it. Hopefully I'll do this right. Make sure that I have the settings correct here. All right, cool, good.
So now you're just going to reuse that same number?
Exactly. For this purpose, I'm not going to set up a new number. I'm not running a business. This is just a sample. So I'll just go back to my account. Go back to my numbers.
But I guess normally if you wanted to have multiple scripts, each having their own number, you'd have to set it up. You couldn't overload it like this.
That's right. That's right. Yep. I'm going to save changes. All right, cool. And then I'm going to go back to my phone. And you can see that, and Eric, you can try along as well.
Sure.
And the question was, who is your favorite superhero? And you don't have to tell me, you can just vote in.
We could be starting a Marvel DC war right here.
All right, cool. I know who mine is, so I'll just vote in. And you can start seeing that these things are getting recorded automatically into this little spreadsheet. So this is takes the user, their input, and then starts recording it. And I don't have any sanity checks today to prevent multiple inputs, so I'm just going to start sending in a few text messages. And I'm going to say, I'll vote for Superman multiple times.
We know who you picked now.
I said it. All right, cool. Well, I've started to log it. But now let's do something interesting with it, right? So let's take this column, and let's say insert data pivot table, and I'll add parse vote, and I'll add just a count. And looks like some people that are listening live are watching this as well. So I'll say insert chart, and I'll just do this. And you can see that there's a 3. Well, it's Superman. Superman's winning. I feel like I'm cheating, but you can see that very quickly, how quickly you're able to turn in a simple SMS sort of message application into a live sort of dashboard. So you can have this up and displaying in front of a live audience, and this will update as inputs come in. So you can start seeing that this is fluctuating, and those are a very simple poll that we built in a matter of seconds.
That's amazing. I mean, to get all the way from people sitting in their chairs to a live dashboard with the results.
Yes.
I mean, that was like only a couple minutes.
That's right. So I think what I may have done here is only to restrict it a few range. So let me just make sure that I include, I don't know, let's go up to 99.
I see. So all the new results.
All the new results weren't coming in.
Gotcha.
And but you guys get the idea of this as being, there it is, and it's updating. All right, so hopefully that gave you a sense for how tapping in live data works. And let me actually go ahead and delete this and start over. Insert chart, and that should be a better sense for how things are. So it sounds like Superman's winning.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Man of Steel gets the nod today.
Yep. And again, all this code, I've actually, just like the other session, I've put it on the GitHub page on github.com/entaq. And you can find all the samples here. You can follow along. I've commented as best I can. It's more of a recipe than a production-ready sample. But yeah, feel free to take a look at it and then go about it. So we've shown two examples. One case, incoming SMS is intercepted and responded back. In another case, an incoming SMS, we took the content and added to a spreadsheet. And once it's in a spreadsheet, it's automatically available for charting, for pivoting, and publishing, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can. I mean, everybody knows how to work with spreadsheets, right? They can pull the data out, they can send it around, they can tabulate it manually if they felt like it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So that's the beauty of spreadsheets. And actually, we're going to show one of the example. In this case, we're actually going to make. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll actually show a diagram that I pulled together. Reload this guy. Hopefully, it'll make sense. Reload him. Okay, so here's kind of the flow of what we built, right? So in my screen, hopefully you guys can see this. The user is out there. They send in an SMS. It goes to the Twilio service, which knows to wake up and then call our app script service, which knows to write data to a spreadsheet. That's really it. So this sort of this sort of automatic flow, then combined with the fact that you can build a very quick chart or a report in a spreadsheet, is really what makes this valuable. And then the users are watching that chart, and you can have that on a big monitor, and lots of fun things like that. So the moment it ends up in a spreadsheet, you can start doing some pretty interesting things. But then it doesn't have to be. It could have been a text archiving service or something along those lines, where you can just have that end up in a document or a spreadsheet or a site and so on. Great.
So this was all SMS now so far,
It's
right?
all, yeah, two examples of SMS, and hopefully that all made sense. And we'll actually step into an interesting example involving phone calls. So in this example, what we're going to do is I have a very simple scenario around I'm a principal, and I have a bunch of students that in some cases they're tardy or misbehaving. And on a weekly basis, I want to make sure that their parents are aware of this behavior in class. And I wrote a little robocall helper. And this data could come in from a teacher reporting in using Google Form. It could be a roll-up based on attendance records. You can do a lot of interesting things. Have the data end up in a spreadsheet. And from there, you can set up a little script that can read data from there and make the phone call to the appropriate parent. And as you can imagine, the limits are quite high from what you can build from there.
So now this isn't actually you picking up the phone and calling or somehow scheduling that. This is all automatic?
This is all automatic. So in this case, the only thing I'm going to kind of manually trigger is the script itself. But as you can imagine, that could be on an event-based. Ikai talked about a very set of useful examples around triggering something every hour, every week, and you can start doing some pretty interesting things. And for this example, what I've done is actually I've assigned a little drawing, and you can assign a script like so. So you just have a little example where you can drop in a little drawing that can look like a button, build a little interface-like widget, and you press it, and then a script is called. And before we kind of go into the code itself, I'll show you a very quick example of how this works. So I'm going to click this, go back to my phone, make sure I'm going to click this. Nope. Boy, it doesn't want to run. Maybe it doesn't like the zoom level. Let's see. Did I remove the script? In showing you that, make sure that is the right script function. Okay, cool. So I'm going to click this. So the script runs. And going back to my phone here, phone's ringing. I want to pick this up, pretend to be this parent.
Your daughter was tardy to class again.
So you can see that, and that's a little bit of fun. I can show you what happened there. So you can see that this message was read. First of all, your daughter was tardy to class again. And I also played a little cowbell music.
Need more cowbell.
That's right, absolutely. And that's actually a good segue to show you the code. So the way this works is Twilio has a markup language where you can have it read an XML file which describes what message to play, what sounds to play it in, and then even an MP3 that you may want to show. So you just saw that in a man's voice of a U.S. accent, the message, which is parameterized in this template, was said, and then we followed by playing their cowbell.mp3 example. So let's actually tweak this a little bit, and I'll have it say it as a woman, and we'll actually loop that 3 times for simple example. And I'll come back to this. So this HTML is actually a TWIML, I think is how they pronounce it. It's basically a simple XML file, and that's parameterized. And
so Twilio tells you that format, like there's documentation.
That's right, yeah, it's documented, and you can do lots of useful things, and you can have different accents and different MP3s and whatnot. And here you can see that what happens is 2 things happen. So in the very first function, we're reading through the spreadsheet. For this example, I'm just picking the first row, and you can have it kind of walk down the tree. And what we're doing here is we're calling a service with the message to play as sort of a cookie, which is then it's going to call back. And we have to authorize it. So this is an authorized call. And then here's the code, the URL we're posting to. All this you can follow along on GitHub as well. And then what happens essentially is Twilio then wakes up and calls the service back and says, okay, I got your request for a phone call. What do you want me to say? At this point, we read this template. We set the message property that we sort of attach in the URL so that we don't have to save state anywhere. And then it just reads that and returns it. So previously, we were returning content service as text. This time, we're returning it as XML. So for voice, you need to interact with it as XML because it's actually a much more richer interface. Okay? So I'm going to save this new version.
That's right. Since you changed the template, in order for for your script to now respond with this new data, you need to update the versions.
That's right. I'm going to update this. And what I'll do is I'll actually go ahead and go back to my call log, and I'll zoom in a little bit. We'll say live demo, please work. Okay, so this could be something that you could have automatically read. And I'm going to start calling, and I'm going to manually run. Phone call comes in, answer.
Live demo, please work.
And
Live.
Please work. Live demo. Please work.
so hopefully you heard that.
Live demo.
It's a live demo. But you got a couple of examples of how that works, and it's actually really straightforward to kind of have it, have the service wake up and call you. So
it is a multi-stage process here, I guess, that we're dealing with.
that's right. Yeah. So I have a little diagram to illustrate this. So the user triggers the script, right? So that's what the button did, but that could be based on a clock trigger as well. From there, we send Twilio a post call saying, okay, here's me. I'm authorizing myself. Now wake up and call this other URL, which contains the XML feed, because it could be a sort of a multi-stage process. Once the XML is woken up, it could have a sort of a directory style, press 1 to get this, so you can have an actual conversation going as well. Then Twilio, like I said, comes back and calls the same service. So this could have been hosted elsewhere.
Yeah.
But in this case, since I'm reading from a spreadsheet anyway, I kind of had it hosted within the same service. So it looks more like a loop, but it could have forked off into a separate thread altogether. And then the user finally gets a phone call.
Gotcha. So as you were saying, right now it's just getting the initial phone call message and sending it back, but there could be further back and forth interactions.
That's right, yeah. And they have a really good example here about a company directory that you could build using this whole system, right? So if you have 15, 20 people in your department and they have different cell phone numbers and you don't want to memorize them, you could all hand out a single phone number to all your customers and your partners, and they call in this number and they may punch in the first few digits of your extension or first few characters of your name, and then in this example they're using a MySQL database and a PHP script, but you can see very quickly that this could all work off of a spreadsheet and app script.
Wow, that's pretty cool. The great thing about Twilio here is that they're very lightweight, right? Give them a URL and they'll just make your app work.
That's right.
I think AppScript really fits in well here because you can spin up a quick URL web app that just takes a little data in, spits a little data out really quickly.
That's right. Yeah, that integration glue capability of AppScript I think really stands out in this example where we can be invoked and we can invoke other services. and we can send up post messages, standard HTTP authorization headers, and we can read incoming post parameters, get parameters, and so on. So.
Yeah.
And obviously all the backing capabilities of apps as well. So into a spreadsheet, into Google Contacts, all.
Yeah,
the
when you said company directory, I thought Google Contacts right away, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And this is something that you could use to make your company look a bit more professional and purchase a number, pay a nominal fee for it, and then get big time directory type capabilities,
right.
so that you don't have to have a receptionist just sending messages to the right person. So that's sort of the third demo that I wanted to show, where you're able to add voice capabilities to a simple spreadsheet or other Google apps that you may have. Cool. So let's see. So obviously, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that that you guys saw was all the different capabilities that you could very quickly wire up, and it definitely makes sense to. Wrong window. It definitely makes sense to take a look through the APIs. They've done a really good job of documenting the SMS messages, the voice messages, how to intercept incoming and outgoing, and send outgoing SMS and voice messages, and it's all based on verbs, right? So you can see in this case for the XML. You can do a lot of interesting things. One example that they have that I think is a little harder to demonstrate is a conference calling mechanism. So you could write a little app that ahead of a conference call that you have, it could wake up and open a calendar entry and call all 15 people on the call, and then essentially join you into that conference call. So you could have an automated conference call, so you don't have to type in those 10 digits followed by the 6-digit PIN and pound and 1 to continue and stuff like that. So it allows you to do a lot of interesting things that you may not previously have thought about as an important or a possible integration point.
These aren't necessarily something like you thought was possible. Like, well, it would take me a week to do. It seems like it's impossible.
Right.
And now, not only is it possible, but it's actually simple. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and obviously, keep in mind that this is all running on top of your AppScript infrastructure. So you'll have to think about authentication and quotas and things like that. So there's a little bit more than I'm showing. But I think once you think through what's possible, I think you will be able to figure out what's appropriate for your department or your team and apply it from there.
Now, these docs look great too, and I've also heard that they have a developer relations team that's actually pretty active.
That's right, yeah. So
kind of our counterparts.
That's right, yeah. And we've worked with them quite a bit, and I've actually spoken at their meetup, I think back in late October, and that was quite fun to be able to show them that this service can be hooked into the Google Apps ecosystem, which I think is a very broad one. So, so if you tweet at them or if you go on their site, they have I think a Stack Overflow label as well, just like we do, and I'm sure we can provide support together.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and that's really all we had, and hopefully this all made sense. And let us know what you're building, and we'll be happy to highlight those.
Thanks so much for showing us everything today.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.